Hello, and welcome to another episode of Chats with GiGi. And if you've been listening for a while, if now you've been watching our interviews also on YouTube, you know that my favorite thing to do on the show is to highlight amazing people. The kind of people that find the way to tap into their passion and change the world. The type of people that do it even scared, the type of people that can look and as they're going through the doors, they hold the door for those around them. Those are my kind of people. And today we have a very special guest. She is a total badass. She is a queen. And I am so excited to have her on the show to share her story. She is Ashley Stoyanov Ojeda. And she is the author of Jefa in Training. And this book is one of a kind. Not only is it written by a Latina for Latina entrepreneurs, but it is a book that is written in our language. It has our sazón Latino. It has the phrases and culture and roots that we all share, regardless of what type of Latina you are, whether you're Mexican or you're Cuban or you're Puerto Rican. There are roots and our cultures are so beautifully similar that when you read this book as a Latina entrepreneur, you feel immediately identified with the author, with the person in the book, with the struggles and the opportunities for growth, with the limitations, right, that we feel that are such a big part of our journey as entrepreneurs. And so when I discovered this book and I started leafing through it, first of all, the book is absolutely gorgeous, right? So, I mean, we're going to talk about like the design for the book, how it has like so much engagement, how it's not a book that you're just going to sit and read with your coffee. It's a book that is going to become your business partner. It's a book that opens doors for you. It's a book that has been so powerful that incredible names, and we're going to discuss this, incredible names have reviewed this book and said it is one of a kind. And so we're going to dive into what Jefa in Training is all about with the author. Ashley, thank you so much for being here today. I am so excited to have you because when I was able to bring you an invitation to the Chats with GiGi podcast, I remember thinking to myself, I'm like, homegirl's going to be so busy. I don't know if she's going to be able to make it on here. And then not only do we have you on the show, but I was able to cover part of your book tour when you came to Miami, which was an absolute success. So I'm just super excited to be able to partake in your growth and in this really powerful celebration of Jefa in Training. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here. You know, I've been following you for a while and I've been listening to the podcast. So it's just everything seems like it's coming full circle right now. Thank you for having me.
And isn't that the best? Like that divine timing, like that
Yeah.
serendipitous connections that happen. And you're just like, that was so easy. I dig it. I dig it. But it's not always easy, right? There are certain parts of life and entrepreneurship, especially, that are not easy. And you talk a little bit about that in the book. And you also talk about how to facilitate and how to simplify, right? But before we get into the meat and potatoes of your book, Jefa in Training, I want to know about you. Because before this book, you already had a beautiful, powerful, and extensive career in business, also in music. So tell us about your start first in music and how that ebbed you and led you to flow into entrepreneurship and into business.
Yeah, definitely. So my journey has been quite untraditional, and but I don't even know what traditional is anymore, honestly. So I mean, Who even says that? But I started out as a singer-songwriter in New York City. I was born and raised in New York City. I grew up in the music scene there. I was a singer-songwriter. I performed in a series of failed bands. People said I was a diva. Could you believe that? I don't know. And kind of through this journey as an artist, I don't think people realize how many business skills you actually need to know in order to be able to make it into studios, make it on stages, and make it as an artist. And I learned unintentionally these skills that made me a great entrepreneur while I was becoming an artist. So from having to pitch yourself, from having to just network and create genuine relationships and know how to navigate this world that is honestly still dominated by white males, who I literally had a booking agent for a venue not want to book my Latina rock band because we were women. They were like, "Well, women don't play rock music, and we're not gonna pay you even if we book you." So knowing how to navigate these spaces, right? From very beginning. This was, I'm saying, like, over 10 years ago. And, New York, no one takes anything over there. So I started on that path, and I continued throughout that path in college. I studied media communications. I minored in Spanish, and going into college, I was like, I don't really want to do this, but if I want to make it as an artist, if I want to be famous in a sense, I should probably learn how to promote myself. So that's what ended up getting me into music PR. And that was my first career path, aside from doing music, is I wanted to be in music PR or music journalism because I knew I always had a knack for writing and I always enjoyed doing it. Fast forward a few years, and I moved to Portland, Oregon after graduating college, and I was just trying to find myself. And there was so much talent in Portland, but not really a lot of industry to support it in the way that there is in New York. There are so many open mics in New York, so many venues, so many labels, and you know who you're trying to get to in New York. In Portland, it wasn't that clear who you were trying to
Mhm.
get in front of. And so I wanted to start like a monthly showcase to highlight other women songwriters. And honestly, I just wanted to make friends. I was coming to this new city, I didn't know anyone, and I just wanted to have a good time and connect with other like-minded people. And so I started this showcase series, which at the time didn't really have a name. It was just every last Wednesday of the month at a local venue, and it grew. It grew to the point where we were packing this 50-person venue with like 80 to 100 people. It grew to the point where
Wow.
other booking agents were coming in from different venues to find artists to play. It got to the point where, media was coming to pick it up, and it really, we outgrew the venue quite quickly, and I was booked out for shows for the next like 6 to 8 months, within the first 3. And a little light bulb went off in my head, and I was like, okay, I probably should do something about this. But I wanted to grow it from a place where, because I wanted to offer more to these women that I was meeting. At this point, I was just offering them a community, a place to play, and I wanted to do more. And with my PR background, I was like, okay, like, should I turn this into kind of a promotions agency where I do PR for these women? Like, how should I navigate this? But something inside of me was just like, I don't want to take money from artists because I hate the people who do the pay to play things. Like, it just really doesn't make sense. Artists don't have money. You should be trying to help them make money. These were all the things that were going through my head. And so I started reaching out to a bunch of other women in music groups online that I knew of. And instead of getting advice, I got a lot of requests like, hey, can you bring this initiative to our city? Can you bring this to our city? And that's when an even bigger light bulb went off in my head. And I was just like, okay, it seems like I have an idea here. I need to figure out how to get it out there. And so this kind of framework of hosting showcases and workshops and networking events became Women Crush Music. And within the first year, we were doing events in 16 international cities. And I was leading a team of over 50 volunteers.
Wow.
And I turned it into a nonprofit, and that was kind of how it all began. And so, when I wasn't looking to start any kind of venture or business, right? So the moment you decide to become an artist, yes, you're starting a business, but the moment you decide to have other people on your team and it grows to a community of 10,000 people so quickly, and other people are relying on you for resources and information and opportunities, like that's something completely different. And so that's really when I had to just Google my life away and and learn everything that I possibly could in order to grow this in the way that it deserved to grow. And that's kind of how everything started. That's how I learned all these business skills, which I now teach to other founders and have been doing that for the last 4 years.
Yeah, I love that. I love to hear when we surrender to our ideas and when we surrender to our passions, when we surrender to our gifts that we all have, how much easier life flows for you. Like you just
Mhm.
said right now, you're like, I wasn't trying to launch a business or a venture or do any of these things. Like I was just trying to play some music because that was my jam and it was fun. And then you just allowed yourself to be in the moment and to be aware, to have the awareness of like what's happening with what I'm doing. How is what I am doing affecting those around me? What are the things that are coming up? And when you allowed yourself to receive the answers to those questions, that's when you were able to say, well, people are asking for this. Apparently, this idea isn't just mine. This idea is growing. It's something that's needed elsewhere. And then you surrendered to that, had a little faith and a little courage, and moved forward with it. And I feel like those are the ways in which we grow the quickest. But it requires those two things, right? Like it requires awareness to pause and look around and be like, what's happening? Like, who's talking to me? What are they asking for? How is what I'm doing creating impact? How is it not creating impact? So that awareness, because I feel like sometimes we get so caught up in the doing, right? Like we decide we're going to do this, we build a business plan, and we just do it, and we start walking through walls, and like we don't pause to look around and say, like, how is this actually working? You know, and to
Mhm.
receive that input from your surroundings, from universe, God, whatever it is you believe in. So that awareness, I think, is so important, but then also the surrender, right? Like it looks like it's going in this direction. So let's just grab the surfboard and go and
Mhm.
ride the wave and see what happens. How do you find that surrender? How do you find that ability to just say, I feel this wave and I'm not going to control it. I'm going to ride it and see what happens. You're surely not in charge of the wave, right? It's not your wave. This wasn't an idea that you had, like you said. This wasn't a venture, but it became one. This wasn't a plan, but it became one. How do you find that space to just
Um,
flow?
I think it helped that I was 24 years old. It helped that I was 24 and I didn't really have another plan at that point. My plan was music and I wanted to find a way to make it somehow. And the fact that I actually didn't know a lot benefited me because I wasn't thinking about the what if that, the what if this, the what if that. Like if I had probably started something like that now, with all of the knowledge that I have now, I'd be thinking a lot more of like the what if, the what. But I didn't, and I think that's really, it's like you said, I just kind of like let go and kind of went with the flow. And I've kind of always been that kind of person who is able to just ride the wave. And I'm very thankful for that personality trait of mine. But I think that's why people seek me out as their business coach now, because a lot of the entrepreneurs that I know now are very, like, they're all perfectionists, type A, like hyper organized, need to have every detail sorted out, which you need those kind of people in your life. I need those kind of people in my life, but it's kind of the perfect balance, right? Because I'm not like that. Um, but in a way I am, because I now see everything that I missed out on when I was starting this first business, and that's ultimately how Jefa and training was born. It's all these foundational things that I did not set up, that stunted our growth quite a bit, and now I see the missing pieces.
I love that. And so let's talk about high training. You had this experience, you had this beautiful growth, you had these adventures through music, and then where did your awareness take you to look at all these mistakes, quote unquote? I feel like they're just learnings, but like look at all these things I didn't do, all of this setting up I didn't do, all this stuff that, like you said, stunted my growth. Like, when was the moment that you said, I'm gonna write a book about this?
It was between year 2 and year 3 at some point where we had grown past the point where we could grow anymore because these foundations were not set in place. There was no financial plan. There was no strategic plan. There was not even an administrative operations plan. Like, our board was a mess. Everything was just in kind of shambles, but from the surface it looked great because we kept growing, the community kept growing, more volunteers were coming, which, if you have a nonprofit, you know that volunteers, like, that's like one of the hardest things to manage about a nonprofit, just finding volunteers, keeping volunteers. And we had been very, very lucky that they just kept coming and coming and coming, and small donations here, small donations here, to just like keep us afloat and keep the programs running, and keep the community growing. And so we probably could have kept running like that up until this point, like it probably, probably could have kept doing it. But I saw at that point something clicked inside of me that we could keep running it like that, but I would just be driving myself into the ground, into burnout, and driving my volunteers into burnout. And so I thought, well, I need to do something about this. There are clearly so many things that I still need to set up. Like, we need to take a pause. And, that's when I actually took on other jobs with startups, and I started working with Yelp and community marketing, and I did biz dev and customer experience and partnerships. And I took on all of these jobs to get all of this experience so that I could apply it to my nonprofit. And in between all of this, I realized that there were so many things that were not covered in all of the business books that I read, like the Girl Boss, the Girl Code, like all these ones that were specifically targeted towards millennial women. I feel like they just I never found a step-by-step guide that went through all of these things. And so at that point, a little other light bulb went off in my head, and I was just like, it would be really cool to have a book like this, but written by someone like me, because I felt like I didn't connect with any of the authors who were writing these kinds of books at that time. And so that was kind of, like, what, end of 2019, beginning of 2019. And throughout 2019, I kind of researched like how to write a book, how to publish, and I found all of the basic information, like pitch an agent to get to a publisher, or you can self-publish, this is that. And so I started pitching agents, and I got a lot of rejections. The book is too niche, this is that. And I got very discouraged, and I kind of tabled the project for a little bit. And what happened then was that I moved to South Florida, and I ended up connecting with Marivet, the founder of the Mujerista. She had a co-working space at the time in Miami, and she hired me to help her manage the co-working space and grow the co-working space. Unfortunately, about 2 months into that relationship, COVID hit. And we made the really, really hard decision to close up the co-working space and transition all of our community efforts to building what is now the Mujerista Network, the online community for the publication, which has now helped thousands of Latinas in their professional and personal journeys, which we're really proud of. So, we really made lemonade out of lemons at that point. But, it was kind of in that time where this feeling that I got that this book needed to be created and that person that needed to create it was me came from working with these women in the Mujerista network, because I was talking to them every day, every week. We were having Zoom calls about how are we going to grow our businesses at this time. We were all kind of like losing our minds because no one knew what COVID was, and we were trying to figure out how long it was going to last, how we were going to navigate all these changes. And I asked the women in the network, where are you getting your business advice from? Where are you getting your resources? Like, what books are you reading? What podcasts are you listening to? And most of them are just like, well, we don't know. We just kind of like the traditional ones, right? The start with whys, the girl boss, the this, the that. And I was just like, okay, well, I know what's missing from these resources. And I know that's not it. That's not what we need. And so by some kind of magic and maybe manifestation and luck, I actually met one of the editors of Mango Publishing, which is my publishing company now, doing a project for the Mujerista, and we started to get to talking, and I was just telling her about me and my vision and all this stuff, and she out of the blue goes, "Are you writing a book?" And I was just like, "Oh," at that point, I had not looked at my book proposal in probably about a year. And I had to like really like hustle that night. I didn't sleep. I kind of revamped it all and sent it to her the next day, and the rest is kind of history.
And here we are now with a book that has received, it has been, first of all, so welcome, I think. Because you're right. I think that there's something special about being spoken to with the words that resonate in your heart. As an immigrant myself, obviously Spanish is my first language, and there's something about the way that I receive a woman that speaks to me in Spanish, or any person that speaks to me in Spanish, and the way that I receive someone that speaks to me in English. And the differences are, I speak both languages. I love both languages. I'm happy to communicate with anyone in either language. But when I hear Spanish, my whole soul wakes up, right? Because those are my roots. That's the dirt on my feet is in Spanish, right? And so there's so much power, like even your and I won't give away too much of the things that are in the book because this is really powerful, but I love that your table of contents, so like the name of each chapter is in Spanish, right? So you have like a construir, a crear, prepárate, el dinero habla, a vender, sigue creciendo. And of course, like within each one of these lessons, you really dive so deep into the how, right? Like the how to seguir creciendo, the how to sell, the how to ponerte las pilas, right? Like, and that even that is like that 10th lesson is even something that's so fun, where it's like ponte las pilas is like multinational. No matter what like what country you're from, you understand what the heck ponte las pilas means, right? Like, and it's just so, it's such a fun way to talk entrepreneurship too. The way that you break down the how-tos, I think something that's really yummy about the book is to be, as you're reading it, it doesn't feel like business. Like, oh gosh, like entrepreneurship and business, and these words carry such an academic heavy weight. Like when you think I'm an entrepreneur, immediately you visualize like suits and boredom and squares and black and white. You know what I mean? Like for the majority of people, that is the association. Like business, it's like, oh my God, business, so heavy. These are words that feel so heavy. It's why I believe so many people have powerful ideas for entrepreneurship and don't pursue them, because the words alone, the concept alone of business and entrepreneurship just feels heavy from the get, right? And in your book, you manage to make it light. You manage to make it fun. You manage to make these very deep processes where you explain like how to found your business and what's the difference. If you're going to register your business, what's the difference between an LLC? What's the difference between a sole proprietorship? And like, how do you decide which one's better for you? And all of these things that are what make business and entrepreneurship deep and heavy, you make them so simple. you make them fun, you make them digestible. And something else that I love about the book is that it's interactive. This is not just like something you're going to read. Like, you've got exercises in here that talk about everything from, not just talk about, but that walk the reader through. Like, this is the chart, write this down. This is what you're going to write down next. This is what you're going to write down after that. This is where you're going to go after you write all this down. Like, brain dump, take a break. Come back. Let's do it. Let's do the next part. Like, I feel like there's just so much power in that, like, but I feel like this is also harder to write, because now you're getting into my brain as a reader and you're walking me through this process. What made you go this route? What made you choose to go the route of an interactive workbook or action guide versus just writing a book with your experience in storytelling and some facts?
Well, a few things. One, I was competing with TikTok. We're so used to be honest, right? Like, we're so used to now absorbing content and information in 15 to 30-second videos. Like, I don't know about you, but I don't have many friends who are actually still actively reading. Um, and it's hard for me to say because I love books, and even I don't read as much as I used to, because we're here in el teléfono con el tiki-taki, like my mom says, And I was just like, man, if I'm going to write something like this, like, I need for it to be engaging. And another reason why I decided to go the workbook route is because I myself, if I don't write things down, like, it doesn't download in here. I'm a very visual learner. So if I don't have spaces to take notes and do exercises, like, and I'm just reading and reading and absorbing, it is very possible that I'm going to forget all of this information. And so it was a way for me to really be able to ensure that the readers would be able to take a break from reading and actually do the exercises. And I've been getting a lot of feedback that people actually read the whole thing and then they read it again the second time and do the exercises, which, good. If that's what works for you, great, do it. But that's kind of why I went that route, right? And I didn't want it to be like everything that you said, like a stuffy vanilla like business textbook, because that's not me. That's not who I am. And I'm a business development coach, right? So I live and breathe this stuff every day. Everything that you see in the book there are real things that I talk to my clients about and I walk them through. And there were so many times I thought I was done with the manuscript that I'd like get off the phone with a client and be like, oh wait, gotta add that because that's come in like 3 times this week. And I should not forget to mention that in the book. And it's just, I really wanted it to feel like, exactly how you said, like, almost like you're reading it and you're learning from like your prima or your best
Mm.
friend, right? It's not like some stranger that you've never met before. I really wanted it to feel like you hear my voice while you are reading it. It's like I'm your hada madrina, and I'm walking you through every step, and you have these exercises to kind of guide you. It is like like you said, Gigi, like your business partner, your business coach in a book. That's what it is.
I love that. And I want to know where this term came from, because I know that you're known as your business Hada Madrina, or your business fairy godmother. Did you coin yourself that, or was that something one of your clients gave you? Tell me the story behind that.
Actually, it goes back to when I was just coaching artists. And one of my clients said it to me. She was just like, "You're like my music management fairy godmother." And then she like sent me like the oh my gosh, the Cinderella like a la madrina like gif. And I was just like, "Oh, I think I'm gonna run with that." But then, I didn't actively start calling myself that until I like last year at some point when someone else said it to me. Someone from the Mujerista community said it to me, because at that point I wasn't just coaching them, I was connecting them with resources. And the thing is, I will never say no to someone. I always want to try to help somebody with healthy boundaries, of course. But I will say, like, I can't help you, but you should look into Gigi's podcast or Vanessa's Instagram or blah blah blah's course. And I think that's really what makes me the Hada Madrina, is because I'm not just trying to sell you to be my client, because that's not me. But I will connect you to other people who are experts in their field, and I will be able to assess the situation and figure out what route is best for you. And I think that's why people got this image that, like, oh, you need help with funding your business. Okay, poof, here is here are three places where you can go find out more about that.
I love it.
That's kind of just how it happened.
And now, despite the fact that there is, well, not anymore because you filled it, but that there was a very big need for books on entrepreneurship written by women, for women, but more importantly, written for Latinas by a Latina. So this book, there was a void in the industry for this book, right? Despite that, the book was not immediately picked up. You shared this with us earlier. Tell me about that process, that overcoming that you had to go through to get the book to be where it is right now, like to get this in our hands. And what do you think? Um, I guess it's a two-part question. Share the story with us, and then let us know, like, what do you think was the breaking of the book? Like all right, yeah, it's too niche. It's a Latina for Latinas on business, and it's in Spanglish. Like, what are you even talking about? Who's gonna buy this, right? But like, literally every Latina entrepreneur needs to read this book, and as soon as we see it, we're like, I am a freaking Jefa. I want to read this, right? Like, I am in the cover. This is me in the cover of this book, right? I will forever be a Jefa in training because I'm always gonna be trying to level up my Jefaness, right? So, like, tell me about that story of you knowing that this book was necessary, of you hearing it from your clients, and of you pitching it and it being turned down continuously. And then, what was the point when the book became real? Like, how did that happen?
Yeah, I learned a lot from starting Woman Crush Music, and I think the biggest takeaway that I actually mentioned at the very beginning of the book is that if you feel like there's a need for something, chances are you're not the only one. And so the whole time I was kind of dreaming about this book and what it would be like and what it would mean for our community, I remembered, like, what would have happened if I had not taken that chance to start Woman Crush Music? I would have missed out on helping thousands of songwriters at that time, and just building something that not only provided opportunities for them, but also gave me a start in business and learning what I was truly capable of. And so that's really when I took the first risk on myself and just had to go with the flow and and kind of figure everything out. And I tried to remember that, throughout this book process, because, like I said, I got shot down by agents. I tabled the project for a little while, but the next thing was that I was being consistently validated by my clients, by the other women that I was meeting in the Mujerista network, that there was a need for this. So not only did I know at that point that there was a need, but I had people telling me almost every day that there was a need for something like this. And the moment that I think, I really knew, like, okay, like, I have to do it, I have to finish, was the day that I signed the contract. Because up until that day, even after I had submitted the proposal and they told me they liked it, was even up until the day that they sent me the contract, I remember sitting at my computer being so nervous. Like, I literally, like, it was dark out, like, I was alone in my apartment, I didn't tell anyone, like, I was about to do, like, probably one of the most memorable things in my life and just sign, like, my first book deal. And I was shaking, and I signed it, I submitted it, and then I just started to cry. I cried and I cried and I cried because I was happy and because I was excited, but also because I was just like, what the hell did I just do? Like, like, I signed a contract. I have to write this book. I have to finish it, and then I have to sell it. And a moment of panic kind of briefly, like, went over me, and then, I was like, messaging with the editor who signed me on, and she was just like, we're all so excited for this. And then a month later, we had the meet the author meeting where everyone who's going to be working on your book jumps on a Zoom call and talks to you, and they learn a little bit more about you. And the director of the imprint, her name is Jackie Sousa. She's also the director of the entrepreneurship program at FIU. She takes a look at me and she goes, I really, really, really like the idea of this book, and it's really needed. But I just really love Ashley. And that meant so much to me because I think I knew that the idea was great, but I also needed someone to validate me and for me to be the one that was writing this, because it's honestly it's an honor, because there's nothing like this out there in our community, and it was so needed and people are so excited about it that I'm just like, I'm so lucky and so grateful that I had the opportunity to do this for us.
And we're excited to see your growth and to see your success and to celebrate you in this process, because um, it's in that growth too that you inspire so many other women to do the thing, right? It's in your doing it even though you were terrified that
Mhm.
you can showcase, like, it's not going to be perfect. I got turned down many times. But I still listened and I was still aware of what was around me. And like you said, your own clients were validating the need for this book. People around you were asking you, "Where's your book? Is there a book about this? Like, what's going on?" And there's just something really, really powerful in that growth, right? But I want to ask you, when what you just shared right now, where you said that you needed that validation, you needed to hear, like, it's Ashley. You needed somebody else to say to you, um, you did this. You are strong having done this. You are powerful having done this. You are the right and perfect person to do this. In the space, in the space between getting the idea and feeling it in your heart, and all of the being turned down or what feel at the moment like failures or setbacks or obstacles to be overcome, and the moment when you have that validation, the moment when somebody else, whether it's a reader or your producer or whoever, tells you, like, "Oh my gosh, you are amazing and I love you and I'm so glad that you did this." What tip would you have? What recommendation do you have for the Jefas out there that still haven't received that validation? They still haven't gotten that you did this, but they have that little seed in their heart that says, "I know I'm meant to do this, but nobody gets it. Nobody's supporting it. Nobody is saying yes to it." What do you have to say to that Jefa that might be listening to this right now and is in that place?
I think I like to remind people to come back to your personal why and what that is. And and in the book I talk about like finding your business mission and vision and all that stuff, and that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about you, like, so for you, Gigi, like your personal why. And so I'll give you an example for mine. So my personal why, as you've all heard already, my career has taken many turns and ups and downs and in many different industries. And at the end of the day, though, everything that I've ever done has been to create opportunities for other people like me, other women, other creatives, other Latinas, other first gen, other other entrepreneurs. And I think that that has kept me grounded this whole time, right? Every time I felt a moment of doubt or hesitation or panic, like I do sometimes, everyone does, I just go back to this why. Like, why am I doing all of this? Why does this matter? And I go back to my why and I think, okay, well, this is my mission. This is what I know that I'm meant to do on this earth, and this is how I'm going to do it. And this is also how I've dealt with rejection in the past. Like, oh, okay, well, what if they hadn't approved this book? Okay, that's fine. I still would have had a way to fulfill my mission, maybe through a podcast, or maybe through a course, or maybe through some other kind of avenue, right? And I think just going back to your personal why and believing in that first, because that's why you're doing everything that you're doing now and why you'll do everything in your future. It helps.
I love that. And it goes back to your awareness. And that's just such a powerful space to be in. It's just aware of you, aware of what's happening, aware of what's around you, aware of why. Like, why am I here? Why do I want to stay here? Or why do I want to move forward? Right? And just being very deeply rooted in that. Um, and I have to mention the reviews that this book has gotten. Because, girl, it is so powerful to read. Like, for example, I'm a huge fan of Gabby, and she says Gabby Natali is a three-time um, Emmy award-winning entrepreneur, and she's an author as well. She's also a motivational speaker, and she says that this book is a great roadmap for a new generation of Latinas who are looking to start an entrepreneurial journey. And I mean, how does it feel to have these amazing women share their views of your book, your baby, right? That went through so much. Your baby went through so much to get here. And these women are here saying, this is the bomb.com and we love it, right? Like these incredible names, right? I mean, Eva Longoria was also someone that talked about your book. And she said, Jefa and Training is a much needed guide for all of us who need a blueprint to becoming a successful entrepreneur. Not only does this book provide the tools, but it provides the inspiration we all need to make that first step. Bravo, hermana. Eva Longoria, to review your book with such high praise. What did that feel like? Holy moly.
It's still a little bit unreal, right? I'm still definitely processing all of this. And I think I probably will need some more time. The Eva quote, like, was crazy and unexpected, and I'm so grateful. And Gabby, since you mentioned her, she has been her and Beatriz Acevedo are have both been like real inspirations for me. And so when I kind of was like, oh, I'm gonna shoot my shot with them and see if they'll endorse the book, I had no idea that they were going to respond, and they both responded relatively very quickly. Um with so much excitement that I was in shock for like probably like 2 weeks, being like, is this really my life? Like, what is happening right now? There have been a couple of instances where I'm like, wow, these women are so powerful and they're still so down to the earth and so approachable that I want to be like them in so many ways. So Gabby, actually, when I had my virtual launch party, Gabby couldn't make it because she has a prior engagement. But she loves the mission of Jefa so much that she pre-recorded a video for us to play when we were welcoming people into the Jefa
Wow.
training virtual launch party, and I cried so much. I watched it like 20 times and I cried. And Beatriz Acevedo spoke at that event. Vanessa Santos, who's the no co-CEO for We All Grow Latina, I literally had just met her 2 weeks before, and we had like a virtual cafecito because Ana Flores is a collaborator in the book, and I've known Ana, and she collaborated to the book, but unfortunately she couldn't make the launch party, and I just wanted to meet Vanessa because she was new, and she commented about the book, and I sent it to her, and I was just like, hey, like, would you like to attend? And basically she was like, well, Anna can't speak at the event, but I would like to. And I was just like, "Oh,
Okay.
okay." And it's been so crazy because everyone it's the book is taking a life of its own at this point, and I'm so happy.
Yeah, I mean, high praise and endorsements everywhere. Also, Fernanda Kelly, who is an award winning actress and activist, she also says Jefa in Training by Ashley is a gift to the Latino and bilingual community of women who are ready to make their entrepreneurial dreams a reality. And she says, Gracias, Madrina. Like, I get emotional reading these these endorsements for you because it's just those spaces of like you said, that validation, that like I did this shit. That's awesome, right? So what's next for you and what's next for Jefas in Training? What's, what do you got cooking? And I know some things, but I've also been sworn to secrecy. So there are many
And
things going on, but I will not be the one to say them. So
I
you
will
share the ones you want to share.
I will continue to swear to secrecy for now, GiGi.
I will say nothing. But I will
um,
ask you what you want to share.
um, I will just say stay tuned. I am relaunching my newsletter. So make sure you subscribe to that. You can get on that by going to my website, which is ashleystoyanov.com. Also follow me on Instagram. I'm most active there. And yeah, just stay tuned because lots of things are coming. The newsletter is a real effort for me to share more information that is like HIFA training, but sharing a little bit more case studies and more in-depth practices and a way for me to kind of do like coaching through a newsletter. Which I've been saying that to people in the last couple of days, and they're just kind of like, "Oh, well, we'll see how that goes for you." And I'm just like, "Well, I did coaching through a book, so coaching through a newsletter, we'll see how it goes." And I am still taking one-on-one clients, but because of how unpredictable my schedule has become with the book tour and promo and this and this and that, the ability for me to take on one-to-one clients is becoming less and less frequent. And so I really want to still provide a way to be a resource for people, and the newsletter is one of those ways. So I'm very, very excited about that. I also don't know when this is going to air, but but um, but I also have a retreat coming up, and I have a couple of spots left for the Jefa training retreat in Mexico this fall. But even
I
if you
was
don't make
going
it
to
to that
ask you
one,
about the retreat. I know that's coming up
yeah,
soon. Tell me more. Tell me
yes.
all about it.
Oh my gosh, so I'm so excited about it. So it's the first Jefa training retreat. It's going to be in Morelia, Mexico, which is where my family is from. It's where my mom grew up. It's where I grew up going every year. It's actually where I'm going to on Monday next week, and I'm so excited because I haven't been back since COVID, and a lot of my family is there. And it's going to be a work and cultural retreat. So basically, it's a week long from October 24th to October 31st. And we're going to spend half the day doing a mixture of one-to-one time with me and also masterminding with the group, and also time alone to work on whatever you want to work on, and analyzing everything that happened in your business this year, but also making a sustainable action plan for 2023. And then when we're not working, we'll be exploring Morelia and maybe do a day trip to Pátzcuaro and Janitzio and try all of the local and regional specialties and interact with locals and go to museums and just have a really, really good time. And this project is particularly special because I actually hired my mom to help me plan it. My mom, she actually has not really worked in like 30 years. And she was working at a restaurant for a while as a coat check, and then COVID hit and they moved far away. And so she's been out of work for 2 years. And when I was putting together the idea for this retreat, I was just like, man, I really need someone who has connections in Mexico, is really good with numbers, is really good with people, and is more organized than I am to help me get this together. And I was thinking to myself, wait, I literally just described my mom. Like maybe I should hire my mom to help me with this. And it's just been so amazing to work with her. And my mom is one of those people that I don't think has still fully get stepped into her power. And I see like from the time that she has started working with me, which was about 2 months ago, till now, like she is way more confident. Like she is just overall, like I think she's realizing that, she doesn't have to just limpiar la casa like every 5 minutes, like there's more she wants to do with her life, and she's doing it, and it's not easy to pivot your career when, you know after all this time of not working, and I'm so proud of her.
Can we talk about that? Can we talk about the way that whether you're first generation immigrant or an immigrant like myself that I came at a really young age, being in this country kind of breaks you away from a lot of the definitions of woman of our
Mhm.
culture, right? We we believe we don't have to limpiar la casa every week,
Mhm.
right? We believe we don't have to necessarily know how to cook or do it well because we got Uber Eats, right? Like I would rather spend my time coaching. I would rather spend my time working on my mastermind. I would
Mhm.
rather spend my time interviewing amazing women like you. But there is some friction there, I think, in our Latino communities when the
Mhm.
woman says, "I am going to work, I am going to pursue a career, and I am going to do it doing this crazy thing that everyone's saying no to, right? Like whatever it is. In your case, it's a book. Um, in other cases, it's maybe opening a dance studio or quitting. Like I did this and I got hell for it. Like I quit a six-figure job in radio to step into coaching full time because that's where my passion was. It's what I wanted to do. And I mean, in our new evolution of thinking, in our growing wings as first generation and as immigrants who came at a young age, we choose to leave behind a lot of the preconceived notions and social constructs of what we are supposed to be that comes from our parents. How did you navigate that with your mom, and how do you navigate being a published author and having done so much, and still feeling like, man, but I feel like my mom hasn't fully stepped into her power. Like there's just so much to unpack there. What do you want to dive into? I feel like it's all so
Oh my
juicy and
god,
beautiful.
I feel like that needs to be a whole other podcast episode. I need to bring my mom in.
Let's do it.
You want to know what's so funny is that I was, before my Miami tour, I did an Instagram live with Vanessa Castillo and Vanessa Rojas, who coordinated my Miami tour. So shout out to them. But we did an Instagram live, and I was at my mom's house, and my mom didn't know that I was Instagramming like live, right? She didn't know I was live. She thought I was just on a Zoom call with my friends. And so she came in to the call and she started talking to them. And when I tell you, she gave them a full on TED talk about how inspiring we are for her generation of Latinas who could never see themselves as entrepreneurs or career women, and how we have to keep doing what we're doing because it's inspiring even people of her age. Like we were all in tears, Gigi. Like we were
Wow.
all in tears. And it was at that point where I looked at my mom and I'm like, damn, like I really need to get you out there in front of more people.
Mommy's
and
got it going on.
and I was just thinking, like, I didn't get this power from nowhere, right? It had to come from somewhere, and I clearly see now that it came from my mom, and I hope that she sees that now or one day and is able to use that. And you're right, it's a lot. And to be honest, as a teenager, my mom and I butt heads a lot because my mom grew up in very, very traditional, very, very Catholic in Morelia, in the 1960s and the 1970s. And I grew up in the 1990s and 2000s in New York City in the music industry, like from two completely different worlds, and for her, like I only had guy friends in high school, and for her that was like, ay ay ay, like qué pena, like, like it was a total panic every time I would be like, mom, I'm going over to my producer's house to work on some music, and she'd be like, te vas a ir a meter a un casa la casa de un chico sin los papás, y qué van a decir los vecinos, and blah 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 blah, like a total full on panic attack. And I'd have to be like, Mom, like this is it. Like, this is my life. Like, I'm in the music scene. Like, no one's gonna think twice about me going to my producer's house, like in the Heights. Like, what do you want me to do? This is what I do. And it took a long, long, long time for my mom to come around, but I don't blame her. It was a completely, like, I now at 30 years old understand everything my mom's had to overcome, and that mindset shift, right, that she's had to do. But man, as a teenager, like, I didn't get it. I didn't get it. If I could go back and tell myself anything at 15, it'd be like, be nicer to your mom.
I love it. So this retreat, the first Jefa in training retreat, an amazing opportunity in Mexico. And all of the information is on the website. So you can head on over to ashleystoyanov.com and you can get that information also in the show notes. This is going to be an amazing experience. And not only do you get to spend some time with Ashley, but you also get to spend some time with her amazing mom.
Yes.
And I think that's a plus. As we're wrapping up, what do you want to be the biggest takeaway that people get from Jefa and training from your book? What do you want? What is your greatest goal and dream for this book?
I really hope that, if not anything else, people get the inspiration to take that little seed that you talked about earlier and do something with it. If you don't want to do the worksheets, fine. If you don't like my style of writing, fine. But at least read the inspirational stories that are featured in there from other jefas, so that you can see what's possible. So hopefully, the next time someone wants to start a business, they can be like, well, Ashley did it, and Anna did it, and Mari did it, and Vanessa did it, and Gigi did it. And so I can do it too. And that's really my biggest hope, is that if not anything else, people will see what's possible from reading it.
I love that. Thank you once again so much for joining us today on this episode of Chats with Gigi. It has been an absolute pleasure to get to chat with you again about this book. We have a lot more coming from Ashley. I cannot share. She is not ready to share, but stay tuned because we're certainly celebrating so much more of this book and what's coming from this book. And I am just honored to witness you and to support you and to see all of the amazing things that you're continuing to do. And I'm super excited that I get to share you, your story, and your book with our listeners and viewers here at Chats with Gigi. So thanks again, Ashley, and I wish you all of the success in the world, because it inspires so many women, myself included, to do more and to do it in Espanol and to do it with all of our sazon and with everything that we have to offer. So thank you for that. Thank you for being an inspiration.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.